Why the VA loan appraisal process is actually the best there is on this episode of Major Money Matters. All right, today we want to talk about the VA loan appraisal process. And this is important because in this market, we're seeing a lot more VA buyers get outstanding deals. However, we're seeing some situations where people don't understand the VA loan appraisal process because they're not really involved in these types of transactions very often. For you guys that are realtors, it's important for you to understand that the average loan officer does 1 to 2 VA loans per year. On my team, we did 132 VA loans last year. We were averaging putting a new veteran into a home about every 67 hours. So we know this process, we know how it works perfectly, and we know how to make this happen for our VA buyers that are out there. So if you need to reach out to us for information, please do. Please ask us questions, because in the end, we want to make sure a veteran is getting served properly. Okay, so first of all, when you go into contract, the appraisal is ordered. Now, if you want to shorten your timeline for getting the appraisal, loan officers should probably order the appraisal immediately. Now, each area has a defined time limit for turn times that VA loans are taking for the appraisal to actually get picked up and for that appraisal to come back. So just keep in mind that you need to check with your loan officer to figure out how long it's going to take for that appraisal to come back. Now, the appraisal process is very, very simple. An appraisal goes out, they appraise the property. Now, some people will say, hey, the VA appraiser is X, Y, and Z, or these appraisals are tougher or more strict. That's not true, okay? First of all, there is no actual VA appraiser. The person that's appraising the property, since he takes off their whatever hat, FHA hat, conventional hat, whatever, and they put on their VA hat and they go do the appraisal. So the appraisal is the value of the house, no matter what type of appraisal you're actually doing. So this theory that the VA appraiser has these other, your appraiser is going to come in low because it's a VA appraiser and all that stuff, that's false. And if things like that are happening, then reach out to my team. We need to be talking to the RLC at the VA regional office to make sure those things are being addressed. Now, this is the part that makes the VA appraisal process amazing. Okay, so this is called the Tidewater process. Tidewater process. This is actually written into law. If the appraiser finds that there's risk that the appraiser is going to come back low or lower than the contract price, then what happens is the appraiser will send notification to the lender saying, hey, I'm notifying you of Tidewater that's being executed on this property. From that point, the realtors actually have 48 hours to submit comparable properties to substantiate the purchase price of the property. This is interesting because if you're doing a conventional loan, FHA loan, USDA loan, or any type of non-QM loan, the time that you know the appraisal is low is when the appraisal is actually complete and that appraisal report is being given to the lender. This gives you as a realtor the opportunity to substantiate the contract price on this property. Now, once you submit those comps to the lender provides those to the appraiser within 48 hours, and then the appraiser makes a determination on the value of the property. Now, sometimes the appraiser says, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't consider that comparable, or I didn't know about that comparable. So what they do is they said, hey, I'm considering that, and I'm submitting this appraisal report at value. Now, it's also important for you to understand what are called MPRs, minimum property requirements. Now, these are outlaid by the VA in general. These are safety parameters or health and safety parameters that the property must meet. For example, if you have a stair rail without a banister or something like that, or without a rail, that is a MPR, a minimum property requirement. If you have a, one thing that's interesting is if you have a garage door, if you have a garage door opener, that garage door opener must actually operate. You cannot have a toilet missing with a hole in the floor or something like that. So understand what these minimum property requirements are. The house doesn't have to be brand new, but it does have to be safe and stuff like that. Some things that actually hang people up on VA appraisals is dry rot or something like that. If you have water damage or termite damage or something like that, dry rot, you need to make sure that's prepared before the appraiser goes out, okay? Or the appraiser might condition you to have that repaired, so your appraisal might be issued subject to these things being completed. So you'll have a value, but it's subject to certain things being completed. Now, back to the timeline. So once that appraisal comes back to the lender, that appraisal may be short. I want to pause right here and let you know that 91% of the time, according to the VA appraisal comes back at value or above. 91%. That's actually on par with other loans, with all other loans. 91% of the time. Now, here is where an experienced VA loan officer is going to make the difference for you and for your VA buyer. And if you're a seller, you need to ensure that your loan officer understands this process, and it is called the ROV process. ROV stands for reconsideration of value. Now, many loan products actually have this. Conventional loans, you can challenge the appraisal. FHA loan, you can challenge the appraisal. But keep in mind, on those loans, when you challenge the appraisal, you're actually challenging the actual appraiser. On VA loans, you're going to the RLC and you're appealing to the RLC. So you're going above the appraiser's head, essentially, and you're saying, hey, I need to reconsider the value of this based on these comparables, and I'm not really getting through to the appraiser. So keep in mind, this process takes about 5 business days. Right now, as the recording of this video, the VA is not very busy, so these can actually come back quicker than 5 business days, okay? So it does add about 5 business days to the process. I want to pause right here and let you know that this process is essential, because if you're running through with a lender that's not aware of this process, this can have a very detrimental effect on your transaction, okay? According to the VA, a very, very, very minute percent of these appraisals that actually come in short, a ROV is actually submitted. This is because of apathy of the realtors, apathy of the lender, and not knowing the process that is actually feasible. So you can do the ROV process and get your value higher in order to support your veteran and your transaction, okay? That ROV then comes back, and generally when the ROV comes back, that's simply the value that you actually have to work with. So I wrap up by telling you this. Number one, you need to have a VA lender that understands this process and understands the steps to keep your deal alive when you're in escrow. Number two, you need to understand everything that's going on in this process so you know where your situations may come up or where the pitfalls may come up, and then how to get around them. Number three, make sure your lender is working for the benefit of the veteran and understanding the ROV process, because this process is a legal, substantial way where you as a realtor can actually affect the value of the appraisal. And it's awesome for our VA buyers. So call us if you have questions, reach out to us. We want to help you get more veterans into home. God bless you. See you next time on Major Money Matters.